November 13th, Monday Night Raw, a show I knew I was going to be upset by last week when they announced 90% of this card. I knew it was going to be a tragedy, and it was. What a waste of 3 hours. They still managed, they tried to do some interesting things here, but not enough. Not soon enough. And then this show was still 3 hours, so we're going to fill it with a lot of chatter. You know, some review, whole lot of chatter, all right? No news and notes, we just going to sprinkle things throughout the show. Cody Rhodes. He starts the show with his plan to win the tag team titles and brings out his War Games team and how they're all bonded by their dislike of Judgment Day. This brings Judgment Day out, of course. Judgment Day is a family. They're not just a team. This is a conspicuous group of so-and-sos. They can't beat the family that is Judgment Day. Then they start taking pop shots at each other. You know, Finn Balor talking about Seth Rollins can't beat Cody, how Sami Zayn is a liar. Damian Priest is taking shots at Cody, saying that he can beat all of those guys in the ring, but he can never be a champion, and that Jey Uso can't be trusted. This led to Cody basically prodding each member of the Judgment Day with various things about who's the leader. Is Dominic the leader? Is Rhea Ripley the leader? Damian Priest says, I'm the leader of Judgment Day. El Jefe de Judgment Day. And everybody looked at him like he was out of his mind. You know, exclamation points went over everybody's head, except for maybe a Dominic, which is probably like a question mark. Like, what's going on here? Sami Zayn cut the promo about how this match is about power and that Judgment Day thinks they have all the power because they have these championships. But the power really lies with them, the guys who oppose the Judgment Day. Seth Rollins is tired of all this chit-chatter. He wants to have a match. And he decides on the tag team match himself and Sami Zayn versus JD McDonough and Dominic Mysterio. And the match is made, and then the match is immediately thrown out when everybody rushes the ring. It's a big ordeal going on where JD McDonough ends up taking one for the team and helping Damian Priest, which is not the first time he's done this, but ended up taking one for the team in this situation. So he ends up getting taken out. Adam Pearce is frustrated. He banned not everybody, not just from ringside. He banned everybody from the arena for the main event. He wants everybody gone, including Rhea Ripley. And Rhea Ripley argued with him about this. She says that she shouldn't have to get banned, and that who does he think he is? And he's like, you know, you guys don't run Monday Night Raw. I run Monday Night Raw. It took him 6 months to get the balls to yell at Rhea Ripley. Then Zoe Stark, Kermit the Frog, decides she's going to come out there and chatterbox for the next 10 minutes about how she had Rhea Ripley beat and all this kind of crap. Nobody cares about Zoe Stark. I promise you. You couldn't give somebody $10 to cheer or boo Zoe Stark. They just take it and go get popcorn. Rhea Ripley cut a promo, said that Zoe Stark reminds her of herself, and that she was going to be champion one day, but only on a different brand, which I liked. Then Zoe Stark has said that Rhea Ripley was stretching herself too thin. She was stressed out, worrying about Dominic, worrying about her championship, worrying about Judgment Day, War Games, all this stuff. And Rhea Ripley said, I can handle all of that because I'm Rhea Bloody Ripley. And I was like, I believe it. But more than anything, I want Zoe Stark, Kermit the Frog, to stop talking. That's what I want. So, Rhea Ripley tried to punch Zoe Stark or something, and she ended up going over the top rope to show us that Zoe Stark is smart. I don't think so. Later, Seth Rollins is dragging ass, getting out of the building, and he ends up running into Cody. And Cody and Seth have a stare down at each other, where basically they agree that they don't like each other, but Cody needs Seth freaking Rollins to be on point for one night. He only needs him for one night to be a good boy. And then Cody says, Seth Rollins says that he doesn't like Cody, but for one night, he will be friendly and they'll be good for War Games. Then he gave him the good attaboy to go and win the tag team titles. Later, Seth Rollins still hasn't found the exit. He's still walking around backstage. He still hasn't found that exit when he runs into Drew McIntyre, who says that Seth Rollins was right. He has nobody to blame but himself. And there was something he wanted to give him last week. And he offered his hand. And Seth Rollins shook it. Drew McIntyre then said that he's going to do what he always does, which is start over from scratch and work his way back up. And then Seth Rollins was like, good boy, kind of. Even later still, Judgment Day is backstage, and Rhea Ripley makes a joke about their fearless leader, El Jefe, Damian Priest, El Jefe de Judgment Day. Then he said, I got upset. I was pretty mad. Got under my skin a little bit. Now I am El Jefe de Judgment Day. So then Rhea Ripley said, okay, for the purposes of War Games, you can be the leader of Judgment Day. And everybody agreed that Damian Priest, El Capitan de Judgment Day, for the purposes of War Games, okay? Only for the purposes of War Games, he is El Capitan, El Presidente, de Jefe de Judgment Day, okay? That's only for the purposes of War Games. So, despite the fact that he is El Capitan, El Presidente de Jefe de Judgment Day, Rhea Ripley made the executive decision that JD McDonough is time for him to be formally inducted into the Judgment Day. Damian Priest is like, we doing this right now, really? We're really doing this right now? And she was like, yeah, we are. So he decided he was going to do it because he's been the guy holding up the process this whole time. So he said, look, I'm going to do it. He goes to JD McDonough, who he was led to believe is nearly dead. And Damian Priest said to him that there's part of him that is very annoyed. The El Presidente part of the Judgment Day, he's very upset. El Jefe de Judgment Day, he's like, you did me a favor, so I'm going to do you a favor. And he gave him a Judgment Day jacket. And so now JD McDonough is literally a member of Judgment Day for the purposes of War Games, no doubt. All of this led us to the main event, in which the Judgment Day wrestled the Yeet Boys in the main event. The match ends with Drew McIntyre doubling back, Claymore to Jey Uso outside the ring, throwing back in the ring. Finn Balor gets the pin. McIntyre stands on the ramp, menacingly smiling, when Rhea Ripley comes out, offers her hand, and Drew McIntyre shakes it. So Drew McIntyre is joining the Judgment Day. Or they made some kind of deal. I think I said 2 weeks ago that this was probably going to happen. That, Drew McIntyre is likely going to end up joining Judgment Day. His hatred for Jey Uso is leading him down the primrose path. And this is a way of him getting some measure of revenge. Now, is it going to be 5-on-5? Because they have been talking about, they've been doing it in 4 for most of this time. Who would be the 5th guy for Cody's team if they're going to go 5-on-5? They would need a 5th member. Who would that 5th member be? It would probably be Kevin Owens, right? Because Kevin Owens is formally suspended from SmackDown because he attacked Grayson Waller. So if he's suspended, then maybe Adam Pearce can unsuspend him because he has authority to do that. And he can say, for the purposes of War Games, I will unsuspend you so that you can wrestle against the Judgment Day on Survivor Series. So that's what I'm thinking, and that's going to lead to the heat between Pearce and Aldis, where, Pearce is undermining Aldis' authority, and that's going to cause a problem between the two of them. I could see all of that occurring if that's the direction that they wanted to go in. Adding Drew McIntyre like 2 weeks before the pay-per-view, I don't know. It's kind of gutter. That's kind of gutter. But It's okay. I can't complain. I kind of saw the McIntyre heel turn coming. I mean, it was the only direction you could go anyway. There was nothing else for you to do. After he lost this match, he had to turn heel. I mean, there was just, you really didn't have any other option. From a narrative perspective, you had gone everywhere you were going to go. Now, in terms of news and notes, Cody Rhodes did an interview with Busted Open Radio. There's been a lot of Cody talk on Busted Open. First, it was like Bully Ray was talking about how the AEW fans pushed Cody away. And this whole Cody thing has been all the fault of the AEW fans. And him and Dave LaGreca was basically discussing what the AEW fans wanted out of Cody. They wanted him to turn heel. They didn't want him to be a babyface anymore. While Cody wanted to be Hulk Hogan. He wanted to be Dusty. And they were like, no, we don't want that. We want him to be a heel. And so they kind of pushed him out of the company. Now, I wouldn't go as far as to say that they pushed him out. They did make what he was trying to do more difficult because they're a very bratty fan base. I hate to be that way, but they have a me-centered conception of wrestling fandom and of that kind of stuff. They don't consider what the story that the author, the writer, or booker, or whatever is trying to tell. They only care about themselves and what they want, which is very childish in a sense. You can dislike what the booker wants to do. You can dislike what the author has written, but it's their story. They're just sharing it with you, you know? So you as the audience, you get to dictate to a degree how much of the story that you're involved with and how much of it you can control and change. But ultimately, the bookers are the guys who are telling the story. You are the person that is receiving the story, and then you respond to it. If you respond negatively to it, then, you know, the booker knows to switch some things around, to change some things around. But when it comes to the point where nothing will satisfy you, that's when the writer, the booker, or whatever has to make the executive decision that we're going to go forward. This is what Vince did, you know, for years with John Cena and Roman Reigns. Like, there's nothing I can do that will appease you in this situation because you're trying to literally take the reins of control away from what I'm doing. And you can't do that because there's too many people for the mob to be a storyteller. Like, you can't tell stories in groups, you know. Somebody has to be ultimately the decision maker. And so Vince is the one who's making the decisions. He decided John Cena is going to be a babyface forever. Roman Reigns is going to be a babyface forever. For better or worse, at least it was one person making the decisions, as opposed to the schizophrenic idea of the people in the front row think John Cena is the greatest babyface of all time, while the people in the back rows hate John Cena's guts and want to set him on fire. Okay, you're not going to get anything out of that conception right there. It's too mangled. And it was a similar situation here with Cody Rhodes, where some people were willing to accept Cody as the top babyface, while other people were not. And we all know that Cody leaving AEW really didn't have anything to do with his creative anyway. He said it was a quote-unquote personal issue. But while he was on screen, there was a lot of negativity about his creative. And that stuff seems to have vanished in WWE. He gets to come in and be the most... he just comes across like such a lying politician. He's so full of shit. And everybody still just kind of goes along with it. Like, yay, we like Cody. We got the Pharaoh plushies now. Did you see that? The Pharaoh plushies. His dog has an action figure. And he's like, you know, so excited to see it in the crowd and all this kind of stuff. I'm like, this fucking guy. Are you serious? Are you serious? But the big thing, not the Bully Ray, Dave LaGreca stuff, is when he was talking about The Rock being at WrestleMania 40. And how he welcomes the idea, but he doesn't think that The Rock would be in his spot. And they kind of overanalyze it, like, whoa, he said his spot. I'm like, yeah, he would definitely have, like, whatever spot The Rock would have at WrestleMania would be The Rock's spot, for the record. because it would be the only reason he would be doing that. Okay. So it wouldn't be like he's taking a spot from somebody else. It would be directly his spot. Somebody takes your spot if you get injured, or something like that. Not if they come in and you get put somewhere else. Like, no. That was their spot. Like, Batista didn't take Daniel Bryan's spot at, the Royal Rumble 2014. It was always supposed to be him. It was planned way before he got over that it was going to be Batista. And then, the company changed things. So the idea that The Rock is going to come in and get the match against Roman Reigns, Cody's like, Rock could be a part of the show, but I don't think he's going to get my spot. And I'm like, okay, good point. I'm not going to argue with you. I don't have a problem with that. But I'm about to say, why can't The Rock just be like the referee for the match or something? Wouldn't that be cool if The Rock was a special guest referee? And maybe they play the bloodline game there where The Rock and Roman thinks he's got it in the bag because his cousin's the ref and that kind of thing. That could be fun. That would be an interesting way of having The Rock involved where he doesn't have to wrestle, but he's still involved with the bloodline story and he gets to cut promos with these guys. And maybe you could lead it to a match at 41 between him and Roman. They did it at 27. He was a special guest, whatever. And then he ended up interfering in a match, and then he wrestled at 28. It would do something similar. He wrestled at 28 and 29. So you could do something similar there, where he's the special guest referee at 40. He wrestles Roman at 41, and then maybe they have a rematch at 42. And then that could be the end for both of them, probably. But that's just something that they've been discussing. And I think Cody knows what's going on here, and the creative is rock solid. All these people who think that things are going to change because of The Rock, I don't think so. I don't even think The Rock is going to be there. I don't see The Rock being there. Now the writer's strike and all that kind of stuff is seemingly coming to an end. I don't see The Rock even showing up for this thing. Or if he does, it'll be some kind of surprise to me and everybody else. But I don't see The Rock versus Roman Reigns being the match at WrestleMania, at least not with the title on the line. I don't see that happening. Now, the only other piece of business is Kevin Nash made a comment about Seth Rollins, that he's sort of the modern day Macho Man Randy Savage. And that got a lot of people dander up. And look, I get why he said that. I can appreciate the comment. And to a degree, I agreed. There was an early part of when he first started doing the Seth freaking Rollins thing, when he was just wearing like funky suits and stuff like that, where I could have said, he is kind of an updated Randy Savage. And then he started wearing women's clothes. And I'm like, he started wearing like cartoon boots. And I'm like, wait a minute. Would Randy Savage do that? Would you see Randy Savage running around in like not sequins, because he actually did run around in sequins, but like the big cartoon block boots, like Seth Rollins has worn those things like 3 or 4 times. Like I could see Macho Man in something glittery, a glittery robe or something like that. But in women's clothes, I don't. Nah. No. I see why you would go that route, but no. And also, I'm not surprised that he likes Seth Rollins, because Seth Rollins is a Triple H guy. And Kevin Nash seems to like the same people that Triple H likes. And he seems to not like the same people that Triple H doesn't like. Funny how that works. Funny how that works, right? But while I like Seth Rollins in the ring, I haven't been a big fan of him lately because I can't get into his character work. But I see why you would say that, with the flamboyance and being super over the top and flashy. But I have to recontextualize it. I don't know if Randy Savage would be cross-dressing. I don't know about that. And I'm not saying like, Seth Rollins is wearing a dress or anything like that. I don't want to go too far, but he was wearing some things that I'm pretty sure Randy Savage wouldn't get caught dead in. All right, let's finally move on from these people. Shinsuke Nakamura is frustrated. So he's going to be taking away the choice of this invisible person that he wants to fight. Then he says if you win or lose your next battle, it doesn't matter to him. Then he says he's going to wait for now. I don't know what any of this means. Nakamura ends up having a match with Otis that felt like it went on forever. And then he ended up bullying Chad Gable after the match, which led to Chad Gable and Shinsuke Nakamura probably having a match next week. Chad Gable says that he will be handling Shinsuke Nakamura. The Creed brothers also came in and offered their assistance when it comes to training with the Alphas, but Gable doesn't want to change his way of doing things. And then the Creed say they have a need for the tag team championship. They're being very silly all of a sudden. I don't like it. They're being a little too silly. At the moment they mention the tag team titles, New Day populates the room like they grew out of the floor, I guess. They came from the sky. I don't know where they came from, but they just happened to be there. And then they start doing the hip swivel with the tag team titles. Then Tozawa appears and says he wants the tag team titles, and he starts doing his thing when he's got the Washington Commanders. Ugh. The horrible name. That belt would actually look pretty dope if it had like the Redskin logo on it. Anyway, the old Redskin logo with the Indian and everything, that belt would look dope if it looked like a North American title or something. In any event, Tozawa that's nasty. I don't even know what that's supposed to mean. I don't know what this is about. I don't know what that means. There's too much Tozawa for me. All right, it's too much. Ivy Nile and Maxine Dupree become friends. They bond over girl math. I don't know. I don't know. It's all dumb fuckery to me. I can tell you that much. But Nakamura is still waiting for his secret visitor. I don't know. Piper Niven is defeated by Tegan Nox by a counter crucifix. They got another vignette for Tegan Nox that was focused on her injury and her recovery, which seems to be the only thing about her that matters. Triple H is not creating characters. Like, this is not a character when we're talking about Tegan Nox, right? These things literally happen to her. We don't know anything about this girl in terms of her character. What does it mean to have the shiniest wizard? What does that mean? Oh, and she says, I can hang with the best in the WWE. So generic. You could take that language and put it in anybody's mouth. It didn't tell me shit about nothing. Please stop. I need some water. To hell with Tegan Nox, okay? Just whatever. Anyway, this match feel like it went on forever too. Piper Niven was dominating. Chelsea Green was looking absolutely scrumptious in the skin tight thing she was wearing with these gold high boots. But the thing is, like, her plunging neckline, like her boobs were basically all the way out. I'm not a big fan of Canada, but they produced Chelsea Green and she's hot. She's pretty damn hot. The other thing about Canada is Natalya. And let me tell you, not a fan. And you guys, you know me. If there's a Natalya around, I start itching. Like, I'm allergic to Natalya. The roof of my mouth start to itch. Every time I say her name, I gotta scratch the roof of my mouth. My dislike of that woman is creeping up every week. Of all the people, look, Tegan Nox is as dull as a stretch of desert. And then you put her with Natalya. Problematic. Because you got two people with no charisma and you put them together. How is that going to end up being very entertaining? Two people with no charisma is not going to entertain anybody. And the crowd, I probably could have heard a mouse fart in that crowd throughout this entire ordeal. Because I don't think anybody cared about Piper Niven. Certainly people negatively cared about Tegan Nox. They care so little, they're probably tweeting collectively, get this broad off TV, And then they probably try to, if they could throw stuff, they'd have threw popcorn or whatever at Natalya, for Christ's sake. This felt like it was going on forever. Piper Niven is a big fat jobber, which is very unfortunate because she didn't have to be, but they made her do it. But okay. The fourth match, before we get to the fourth match on the show, The Miz, he's backstage talking about he's driven by respect. Then, Gunther thinks he's a clown. Gunther thinks he's a joke. And then here comes some really normal Ed-sounding guy. Miz, you are a joke. Miz, you are a clown. I look up, because I wasn't looking at the screen, I was taking notes. And it's Ivar of the Viking Raiders. And I'm looking at, he's in full, like, Viking regalia with crown and fur boots and everything. And he's just talking like a guy at the water cooler. Miz, you are a joke. Miz, you are a clown. I'm like, who is this Ned? It's Earl, motherfucker. Like, this guy's so normal. Why is he so normal? Why is he talking like a normal person? He should be talking like a crazy Viking. What do crazy Vikings sound like? That's what I mean by characters. You give him a character, but then you contradict the character. Because as soon as he opens his mouth, he sounds like your neighbor. What the hell is the point of him being dressed up in furry boots and everything? What's the point? He's a Viking enthusiast. He just wants to get the Viking experience. This is stupid. And then another normal talking guy shows up, and it's Bronson Reed. I mean, he's just fat all over. I mean, Bronson Reed's a human bowling ball. I mean, do you see how short his arms look? Like, I don't think his arms can... He probably couldn't hug himself. You know? It's a very weird situation here. He called everybody lucky to have escaped him. Him and Ivar got into it. And this leads to The Miz versus Ivar. One of the matches that was actually booked last week. Miz wins by putting his feet on the ropes. This included The Miz kicking out of some really weird things like The Miz wouldn't normally kick out of. Like the world's strongest slam from the second rope or the top rope or something like that. I was like, yeah, The Miz I know wouldn't have kicked out of that. Wouldn't have even bothered. But babyface Miz, he's got a different health bar than heel Miz. So you already know. Bronson Reed was on commentary. He got pie-faced by Ivar. This led to him distracting Ivar and Ivar losing by Miz putting his feet on the ropes. Earlier in the night, Gunther and Miz had a conversation where Gunther congratulated Miz for being the rightful contender for the Intercontinental Championship. He also said that the time for fun and games are over. Where Miz says that he won't be overlooked, that, Gunther really doesn't understand him. He'll do whatever it takes to become the 9-time Intercontinental Champion. He's going to show Gunther the difference between being the longest reigning Intercontinental Champion and being the best Intercontinental Champion. I like this. This was very good. The Miz winning, fine. Gunther and Miz are going to have a fun match. Gunther has been making the rounds lately in terms of they've been asking him about various Intercontinental Champions. And he's been, you can tell he's in character, but some of the stuff that he's been saying, like he talked about the Ultimate Warrior, he said it was the real dark days, the real dark ages or something like that. And then he also, about Bret Hart, says that Bret Hart said not nice things about his match at Clash at the Castle. So he's not going to say anything nice about Bret. And I thought that was funny too. Again, I'm not angry at guys for standing up for themselves, Bret said what did Bret talk about the physicality of the match? I think that it was probably too physical. They were just beating the shit out of each other. And I did a little look because I feel like it would benefit me talking about it to know exactly what he said. But essentially Bret says that he's not going to stand there and let somebody chop him 500 times as hard as they could. That's what they used to do to the jabronis in the old days. They would chop them, beat them, slap them. I would never let a guy slap me and chop me. Ric Flair's the only guy that ever chopped me. He usually got to me in the end where I would tell Rick, you can give me one chop in the match to get it over with. But as far as the match goes, I'm not going to sit there and stick my chest out for some guy to slap me on the chest for an hour. That's not what wrestling is. Then, it kind of goes on. He says, so why are you letting someone slap you and chop you and whip you across the chest and hurt you and you're in pain all night and you wake up the next day with blisters all over your chest and then do it again the next night? It's just stupid. So Gunther not giving Brett any credit for being a good Intercontinental Champion because Brett is, you know, well, he also said that he was embarrassed to sit front row at Cardiff because of watching the kids slap their legs. I don't know. I think it's probably the Usos, if I had to make a guess. But he didn't like Gunther and Sheamus because he didn't like the physicality of the match. He thought these guys were beating each other up too much. And so Gunther is like, look, he didn't like my match. I'm not going to give him credit for anything. He doesn't give me credit for anything. And that seems to be fair, you know. Not that Brett needs it. Brett doesn't need anything from Gunther. He'll be fine. But Gunther taking shots at these legends has been hilarious on the internet. Especially since so many people are taking him so seriously. They're taking everything he does on the bump very seriously. Noted the journalistic integrity of the bump, for the record. Get out of here. Next, Zoe Stark and Kermit the Frog and Shayna Baszler, they're talking backstage about how Shayna almost won the Battle Royal and they're good buddies, but she's looking forward to Zoe Stark beating Rhea Ripley. Raquel also wished Zoe Stark good luck, and then Nia Jax came in and said everybody's pathetic, and she squished Zoe Stark already, and that she called them cowards for ganging up on her and throwing her out of the Battle Royal, and none of them could beat her one-on-one. Then Raquel went over there and spoke Spanglish. I think she called her Chiquita, because she calls everybody Chiquita, and says that she's not scared of Nia Jax, and nobody's pushed Nia Jax since she came back, and she's gonna she's gonna be the one that's gonna beat Nia Jax. Okay, I don't know. And then I think we got threatened with that match too by Michael Cole or one of the guys on commentary. I would love to see that match. I was like, oh brother. Oh yeah. By the way, this is just for my entertainment. Do you guys know how Nia Jax got her job back? Everybody said it was a Vince hire and it was Triple H the whole time. She just sent Triple H a text saying, hey, can I have my job back? And he was like, sure. Everybody blamed Vince. It was Triple H the whole time. As usual. As usual, it was Triple H the whole time. Speaking of Triple H, he decided that he was going to have DIY continue to exist. Their theme song is terrible. Terrible. Tommaso Ciampa versus Ludwig Kaiser. Ludwig Kaiser has his own theme. It sounds like pots and pans smashing against each other. I hate it. Why can't he just use Swan Lake? You know, the only other wrestler that uses Swan Lake as an entrance theme is not in WWE. And it's Cara Noir. And his whole interest is based on Swan Lake. His whole character is based on Swan Lake. But Ludwig Kaiser has used Swan Lake in his Instagram post, and they used it for a vignette a couple of weeks ago, which was fantastic, and they didn't build up on it. But then when he gets his own theme, it just sounds like a toddler, smashing cheese graters against the skillets. This is a stupid song. This song sucks. The finish comes in where Giovanni Vinci gets ejected, but then he doubles back behind the referee's back and kicks Johnny Gargano in the head, distracting him, and Ludwig Kaiser got the roll-up win. So Kaiser won the match, and all is well. Backstage, Gunther, he's very excited about the win. He gives the boys some good credit and says that, oh, you did a good job here. You do good. This is what this thing is all about. And Ludwig Kaiser is, excited about this, and he's feeling good about himself. And Gunther was like, not you, him. He's talking to Vinci. He said Vinci got himself ejected just to turn around and come back, and the referee didn't see him. That was a good win. That was a good job that he did. And then Kaiser was looking like, but I'm the one who won the match. And Gunther and Kaiser stare at each other. There was some tension there. And now Vinci is feeling good. His head getting all big. His head growing. Getting like Mr. Mackey out here. And so Gunther leaves. And Vinci is very excited. He leaves too. And then Ludwig Kaiser, and he bumps into Indus Sher and Jinder Mahal. And I have no idea where these people have been or why they're still here. I don't know what it is about Indus Sher where they get so many chances. It's like they have infinite lives in a video game or something like that. How is it these guys keep getting taken off TV and then keep getting brought back? How could it be that some people barely get any chance at all and before they get removed, but Indus Sher, they keep getting more and more and more chances? Are they paying for this? Are they paying for these opportunities? We'll never know. But Indus Sher is back. DIY is out there. They're still terrible. It's just not. Poor Tommaso Ciampa. He could be so good on his own, but everybody thinks it's a good idea for him to be hanging around with Johnny Gargano, who has got to be the most dorkiest, dork-ass wrestler in the entire WWE. Probably, if it wasn't for maybe some of those dweebs over in AEW, he'd be the most dorky, dork-ass wrestler in all of wrestling. And maybe some of those guys on the indies who are dork as fuck. But Johnny Gargano, my goodness, he probably still sends Christmas cards to people, you know, personally, lick the stamp and everything. It's weird. It's a weird-ass guy. All right, next and probably final thing, Xia Li versus Indy Hartwell. Ends with Xia Li kicked Indy Hartwell in the head, and Indy Hartwell staggered and stumbled, and the referee steps in and stops the match. Xia Li wins the match through referee stoppage. And after the match, Becky Lynch comes out there and says that they're not going to fight on Xia Li's time. They're going to fight on big time Beck's time. So she gets in the ring. She said she came looking for a fight, and Xia Li powders after they have a minor dust up. So Becky Lynch says, she can run, but I got her next week. So Becky Lynch versus Xia Li next week on Raw. Don't hate that idea. I don't have a problem with what they're doing with Xia Li. I just wish it looked more like MMA and less like this. Like, because, you know, what you're seeing is basically traditional wrestlers selling, and referees are not in any rush to jump in and save anybody when you see traditional selling. But if you see somebody, or if the selling was slightly more realistic or different, or if the strikes were a lot more vicious or something like that, all you need to do really is look at, you know, mixed martial arts. I mean, you're already you're a partner now. You're merged with UFC. All you have to do is do what they do. You know, somebody gets caught with something, a back fist or a knee strike to the face. They stumble to the ground and curl up, and then Xia Li jumps on top of them and just starts raining punches and kicks and stuff on them, and they're not defending themselves. And then the referee jumps in and pulls Xia Li off of her. You know, instead of doing she gave him a concussion kick or something, and then they're gonna very poorly sell it and stumble around and be like, oh, because it just seems normal. If you want to do something, make it seem abnormal. Make it seem special, you know? And, you know, the thing about, I think I mentioned this before about Xia Li with the weapons. She needs to actually use the weapons. Like, they need to do a segment where she has, like, a manager or something, and she gets to cut watermelons with katanas or something like that to show that she can actually use these fucking weapons in a real situation. You know? I think that would be fun. Or if she does, like, some, Wing Chun or Kung Fu style exhibits in the ring where she breaks bricks, or she, you know, kicks stuff to show how dangerous her kicks are. Like, that's the kind of character stuff you could do that would make things interesting. Where, like, you could do, like, they do, I forget what it's called, but it's they can measure your punch force, you know. Like, if you were to do something where you could measure, like, Xia Li's kick force, and then you show that her kick force is much higher than everybody else's, it would be like an interesting thing that you could use to get her over. That, you know, maybe she's forced to wear pads on her feet. Because if she kicked somebody in the head unprotected, she might actually hurt somebody, like, hurt them in a serious way. That would really put over her kicking and her punching, her strikes, which is what they're trying to get over right now anyway. But there has to be another way of doing it outside of just having gangly ass Indy Hartwell stumble all over the place. She can't fucking sell anyway. All right. Indy Hartwell sucks ass. She sucks ass through a wooden straw. All right. Just she's just bad. She's always been bad. She's not good. She was entertaining for a hot second when she was making a fool of herself in that marriage thing. But since that thing was over, she hadn't done a goddamn thing good since, and I didn't do a goddamn thing good before it. But Xia Li at least has some potential. Now, Xia Li has a lot of chances too. I don't know, has she had as many chances as Indu Share? I'm pretty sure it's comparable. I'm pretty sure the Xia Li repush is comparable to the amount of repushes that Indu Share got. But it's because they don't know what to do with Xia Li to get her over. The vignettes were a good start. But if you're going to put over her martial arts, you have to show us how the martial arts works. It also doesn't help that there's like Asuka does basically like a martial arts type of character too. But if you want to separate Xia Li, do the demonstrations. Have somebody there. This probably might be a job for Boa or somebody like that, where he's like her handler. And you see her doing all these cool kick flips or whatever, where he's holding like boards and she go, "Hiya!" She punches through the board, and she punches through 3 boards. She punches through 4. And then they measure her kick force and all this kind of stuff to show you like she's basically Ivan Drago in a small Asian body. And then people could be like, whoa. She's a little stick of dynamite. She's dangerous, And then when you do something like she roundhouse kicks somebody in the head, people are going to be like, oh shit. She could really, screw you up. And then you can even take it to the next level by, forcing her to wear kick pads because of her kick force. And then she can do sneaky shit like taking the kick pads off and kicking people in the head with them to show how vicious she is. There's a lot of little psychological stuff you could do. Like, it's the reverse of the loaded boot. I'm pretty sure, if you've gotten this far into the video, you've been watching the business for a long time, you've heard of the loaded boot. If you haven't, and you're a young kid, you've never heard of loaded boots before, what they used to do in the past is, especially masked wrestlers, they would do what's called the loaded boot. They would always pretend that there's something in their boot. So this is where Shawn Michaels get the tuning up the band from. He would go in the corner and stomp. They would do this with guys who supposedly had a loaded boot. They would go into the corner and then they would tap the bottom of their foot to show that they're loading their boot. And they would like tap their legs and all this kind of stuff to show that the boot is loaded. And then they kick you while you're down or kick you in the stomach or something like that with the loaded boot, and then they'd win. You could do something that's kind of like the reverse of that, where Xia Li goes into the corner, she actually takes her kick pad off, and then she kicks people in the head or whatever, or something like that. It would be good storytelling to really emphasize her martial arts. And you really should be doing something like this for anybody who uses martial arts in their character. So like Carmen Petrovich, Lola Vice, who also apparently is going to be using mixed martial arts in her matches. You can't do it for everybody, but you can get away with that kind of character work multiple times. Like you did it with multiple times with like Drew Gulak and Timothy Thatcher and Chad Gable all had, grappling schools, and they're all like, 2 or 3 of them were like brutal, I'm gonna choke you to death kinds of guys, So you could do something that would make her feel special and get people involved in her matches, rather than just putting her in matches and putting her in storylines, and people are just kind of like, I don't get it. She's very small. Even if she can kick people pretty good. We've seen Asuka kick people in the head 100 times. We see everybody kicking people in the head all the time. The Usos throw 1,000 super kicks per match. What's the difference between her and everybody else? Maybe go through her history. Did she do martial arts in high school? Did she do, did she win any medals, or is she like a legitimate shoot fighter, or whatever the case may be? Even if you have to create it, bring all that shit together that you've been doing, the Mortal Kombat shit, the protector gimmick, all that kind of stuff. Bring all that together into one segment where this is who Xia Li is. This is how she grew up. This is how she survived in China before she came to WWE. She was a mixed martial artist or something like that, and her specialties were kicks. And you start showing people that she kick ass, and then you start having her literally kick your favorite wrestler in the head. They used to do this stuff with like Ricky the Dragon Steamboat, like he would fight ninjas, and people would be like, that's ridiculous today. But no, that was a personality vignette that was showing you how dangerous Ricky the Dragon Steamboat is, because who knows where the hell those ninjas came from, and it don't matter. He was just beating up ninjas. And guess what? It was fucking cool. So have Xia Li beat up ninjas or something. Like apparently Akira Tozawa has like, a haunted house full of ninjas and goons. Like, can't she, beat up those kinds of people? You can even, in some ways, reinvent the Tian Sha thing by showing her in a dojo, mixing it up with people and all this kind of stuff. There's so many there's 100 different things you could do that would make her so interesting. And they chose the worst one, which is she's a generic heel who's going to powder from Becky Lynch. Instead of Becky Lynch wants to fight, but Xia Li is a fighter, and she's a better fighter than Becky Lynch. So when Becky Lynch gets in the ring, Xia Li leg kicks her in the fucking knee. And then Becky Lynch staggers, and then she goes to spin kick Becky in the head, and then Becky powders. And, she's like, whoa, maybe I ought to think about this for a second. And then maybe you have Becky do something a little bit different next time. Like she comes in, she just immediately shoots her and grabs her by the legs or something. There's 100 different things you could do that would make Xia Li more interesting. And this will apply to pretty much everybody on the Raw roster. There's 100 ways to make Bronson Reed interesting, but they choose to do none of that and just have them in generic ass matches. And I don't know why they choose to do this, but it's Triple H, It's chocolate and vanilla. Chocolate, vanilla. What's your favorite flavor? I love chocolate, but vanilla's my home. And get out of here. It's ridiculous. I don't know how I spent up like 8 minutes on Xia Li, but I just like talking about different ways that you can make characters more interesting on television, because they're not interesting now. And you can fix that. It doesn't have to be this way. So, Raw was boring as usual. I hated it. Drew McIntyre turning heel was not nearly enough to keep me interested in this show for the long term, but it was welcome, because it was, you needed a change of pace. Now, Damian Priest is likely going to end up definitely getting kicked out of Judgment Day. Rhea Ripley is making deals apparently behind his back when he doesn't know about it. They decided they was going to make JD McDonough a member. They didn't really ask him first. He got the Money in the Bank briefcase and all this kind of stuff too. So he's definitely on his last days in the Judgment Day, which is great, because I hate the Judgment Day, and the sooner we can break them up, the better. I can almost guarantee you that the fifth guy for Cody's team is going to end up being Kevin Owens, because it only makes sense for it to be Kevin Owens. Gunther and Miz are going to have a fun match that everybody's going to think is not fun, but it's going to be a very fun match. I'm actually looking forward to Becky Lynch and Xia Li too, because it's an opportunity for Xia Li to up her game. And she has been a really good, personality and character that they have dropped the ball with so many times. And I don't know what more you can do. If this thing don't work, just let her go. If this thing don't work, just let her go do something else. Because you got so many girls on NXT that we got to eventually get around to somebody else. And it's the same thing with Indus Sher. If they can't make it work this time, maybe let all these fucking guys go and we start over from scratch with somebody else. The Creed brothers being silly, I'm not a big fan of that, but I understand it. I kind of want them involved with Alpha Academy because I think it fits. At the same time, though, as long as Akira Tozawa is doing what he's doing and New Day's involved, I don't want them to get all that crap on them. And if you're driving through the mud, you're gonna get mud on you. And the Creeds are definitely gonna be driving through the mud in that tag team division because it's so bad, so bad. DIY sucks. I wish they would go away, but they won't. Ludwig Kaiser rules. Gunther rules. Giovanni Vinci is good. So I like Imperium. Just feel like we're not doing enough with those guys. The women's division on Raw, the tag team titles are an absolute mess. The women's world title is, again, it's the same people over and 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 over again as usual. But then again, the division is small. Not looking forward to that Nia Jax Raquel Rodriguez thing. Not looking forward to that, but it's coming. Triple H trying to hold on to Shayna Baszler, but it's about time for her too. If you can't make Shayna Baszler work now, it's time for her to go. You know, I hate to be the one to have to say that, but there's only so many times you can watch somebody reheat this thing. You know, if I had a podcast or a show in 1997 or something like that, I would have said the same thing about Charles Wright. Papa Shango, and all the other gimmicks that he had up to that point. Like, if you can't make it work this time, just let the guy go. It's just not going to work. Same thing with Glenn Jacobs. The guy comes in as, Isaac Yankem or whatever, and, the fake Diesel. If you can't get Kane to work, just let him go. But you have to actually put forth a character in order for me to feel like it's time to give up on you. I can't say it's your fault if the company is not investing enough time into building a character for you. Not just putting you in front of a camera and it's just you naked in front of the world. Because people don't care about you. They want a character. What does your character do? Why does your character dress the way that they dress? What does your character want? What is your character's motivation? Why would you make a decision? Why are you in the WWE? And some people would get these goofy ideas, like you would see Double J Jeff Jarrett. He would come in and he wants to be a country singer, but he wants to use the WWF platform to become famous first. And it's stupid to take power drivers and get choke slammed in order to become famous. But when you consider that it was kind of before its time, as so many actors and athletes, like, Deion Sanders put out a rap album and Allen Iverson put out one, and, Eddie Murphy had put out a song, and all this, he put out an album too, if I remember correctly. And it became a thing where people were using what popularity they got from somewhere else to go into the music business or go into acting or whatever. And so the Jeff Jarrett character, while they didn't make any goddamn sense on its face, if you put it in the context of 1995, or was it 93? Whatever. If you put it in its proper it was probably 93. If you put it in its proper context, people had done that before. People have used television shows to launch singing careers, acting careers, etc. So you could do the same thing today by having people try to use WWE to launch other things, or people who come from other realms of life or finally come into WWE to achieve a dream or something like that. Instead of just saying, it's always been my dream, or I could hang with the best in the WWE universe. All these Pokemon talking points. Nobody care about that shit. Fix it. It can be fixed. But everybody's too busy slobbing Triple H's ass. Oh, the shows are so much better with Triple H. Shows are boring as hell, bro. Nothing fucking happens on these shows. This show was 2 hours of nothing. 2 hours of not a damn thing happening. Oh, Damian Priest says that he's the leader of Judgment Day. Oh, JD McDonough finally gets to be in Judgment Day. Oh, Drew McIntyre turned heel. Oh. Okay, I guess. But what about the rest of the show? That's that. If you want to be generous, that makes up 4 or 5% of the show. Why are we sitting through Piper Niven and Tegan Knox having elongated matches? I don't see the point of that. So fill that time with vignettes and different things like that to put the characters over, and that could be fun. Ludwig Kaiser is about ready to break through. Continue running the Ludwig Kaiser vignettes with him talking about himself being living art. Change his theme song from that garbage to, Swan Lake or whatever. And we might be cooking with something here. But let me know what you guys think. I talk too much. I'm thirsty. I'll talk to you guys later. Like, share, subscribe.